Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the third ever episode of the Occasional Podcast. I haven't made one in quite a while. It's currently towards the end of June for me, which I think you'll see probably next week. And I thought I should make another Occasional Podcast episode just because I haven't made one in, I don't know, months maybe. Maybe March was maybe the last time. Or maybe possibly May, because I'm pretty sure it was just about to be it had just been the King's coronation. So it's been over a month. And I thought I would make another one just because. And over the last maybe hour or so, I've made a list of topics. So one of the topics, probably the main topic, is the hot weather that has happened. It's not really happening anymore, although they say it happens every day in different areas of England, but I wouldn't say it's currently hot weather today. Today is the 27th, and I wouldn't say it's personally hot. It's maybe like 20 degrees, maybe at the most. I don't consider that too hot compared to like a few days ago when it was like 26 or something. Which was considerably hotter for like a 3-day period. And something that I didn't think, because yes, it's very hot and you're like, oh my god, it's so hot. I didn't find it hot, you know, like the way people in other countries talk about it. I didn't find it that bad. Like you get in, like, I was watching a video earlier and it said that if you live in Arkansas in America, it's so hot, it's like 130 Fahrenheit, and it's like melting cars and melting bricks on your wall and stuff. I don't know how true that is, but that seems like major. I won't compare that, obviously, to what we had. But, you know, it is hot. But in our living room, we have candles that I bought the other day. Well, not the other day, actually, like weeks ago. And we have like these candles that are just like in a glass like cup with like the candle in and the wick. And we've got like a berry flavoured one and then like a more sort of neutral sort of flavour. And they've melted a bit, like within their like glass cup that they're in. They sort of feel like a really, like, I don't know how to explain it, like they're kind of soft. Like before they were just like a solid candle, like you can't do much with them. But now, because it's been so hot in the last couple weeks, it's like you can like touch it and it like comes off on your finger. And I thought that was a bit like intense, but I suppose like that's just what happens. And then another thing that I noticed, I think a couple of days ago, is I have these like vitamin gummy sweets. And I have them near the window, which is probably a bad place to put them. And what must have happened was the like sun had come through the window and like made it like a greenhouse, and it's like sort of melted the gummies, sort of like disfigured them. So, like, I had one the other day, and, like, it was, like, gooey, rather than, like, a solid, like, say, like, for example, like, a gummy bear is a gummy bear, but, like, it was, say, like, a gooey gummy bear sort of example. I mean, it wasn't a gummy bear, but that's, like, the example. So, I thought that was really interesting. I suppose it makes sense. Another thing I wanted to talk about was loom bands. I was a big loom band girl back in the day. Before they were like banned in every school, like I was into loom bands. I think the only reason I got into loom bands once upon a time was because somebody who we knew gave them to my mum to give to me. I don't know why. My mum must have done something. And they're like, oh, just give your child some loom bands. Because, I don't know, this would have been like primary school. Like, this would have been maybe year 6, year 5, maybe even year 7, but I feel like by year 7 they were banned, so that must have been maybe like the following year. Because loom bands were a trend for a really long time, and I'm kind of into loom bands again, and I sort of like wish I still had them, because I've been looking for them, and I had like a giant case of loom bands where like it was like sort of like a plastic tub with like 50 different like compartments with all different coloured loom bands, and I've got no idea where it's gone, because I feel like we wouldn't have thrown it away because it's like £100 worth of loom bands. Maybe that's an over exaggeration, but a large amount of money, loom bands. So I feel like the plastic tub would have costed like £10 at least, which like now would probably be quite valuable. And I don't think we'd have thrown it away, because I feel like it was in one of the rooms in my house like a year ago, and we wouldn't have thrown it away in the last year. But I've been trying to look for it in that room that I assume it is, and I can't find it. So I don't know if my brother has robbed the loom band and given them to someone, which I don't know why he would, but I can't think of where they would have gone. Because I thought maybe if I'd taken them out and hid them in my room to like avoid my family members putting them in the bin. But I can't find them. They're not under my bed. They're not like hiding away anywhere. Not in like the wardrobe, at the bottom of the wardrobe. They're not hiding in a drawer in my room. I just can't find them. So yeah, that's slightly annoying. Because I knew exactly where they were as well. And a few months ago I was like, oh, I need to find my loom bands. And I couldn't find them. And then like a few days ago I looked again and I still couldn't find them. So the only place I can imagine they are, and they must be in my room, but I can't think where they would be, because we wouldn't have thrown them away. It's like one of those awkward things where it's like, you know where it is because you've seen it there, but when you actually want it, it's gone. And I had loads of loom bands as well. Like, I have a lot of like pre-made loom bands that I made back then. I'm even wearing one now that I found downstairs. And I can only make basic loom bands, like I don't know what you'd call them all, just like the normal one, because there used to be like this trick where you'd make 2 fingers and then you'd like put them on your fingers and do it that way instead of using like the loom thing. And I would do that constantly. Like, I'd just like sit there for hours playing with loom bands as if it was like an Olympic sport. Like, I took my loom banding so seriously. My mum was loom band as well. And I remember once me, my mum, and one of my friends from school sat, like, I can't remember where we were, but we were sat playing with loom bands for hours. And like, my mum's like adult friends would like come over and be like, hey, what are you doing? And we just sat there making loom bands, me, my mum, and this girl. And it just, yeah. Probably should have sold them, probably should have made money out of it, because people were really interested in our loom bands. And we were just like, no, making loom bands. And then once, another occasion, like, as I say, like, years later, because I was really into loom bands, me and my mum made literally, like, the longest loom band you can imagine. I started it, and then my mum did one end of it, and I did the other end. Just to see, sort of, how long it could go. We did it for hours. Like, it ended up hurting our fingers, because, like, at least I did it on my finger. Maybe my mum did it on the loom band. Like, I don't know what you call it. Was it just a loom? It was like a flat thing with, like, pegs all over it. So she might have used that, but it, like, hurts my fingers. And they had, like, a hook thing that would help if you needed the hook. But I would just do it on my hands, using my nails, which is, yeah. Luckily, at that time, I still had long nails. Because I then went through a phase where I bit my nails for years. Like, from the age of, like, 8 to, like, 13, I used to bite my nails constantly, and then I stopped. But I think that was the period where I didn't have long nails. So, or maybe I did have long nails. See, that confuses me even more, because I feel like when I was making loom bands, I was between the ages of 8 and 13, so I must have not had long nails, but now maybe I did. I'm confused, but it was definitely like late primary school years, early secondary school years. I started secondary school in September 2014, so it must have been earlier than that. But then I remember at secondary school, it was banned. They were like, don't bring loom bands into school. So it must have been around about that time. But yeah, I really want my loom bands, and I've got no idea where they are. I've got like every other object a kid would ever want. Like I'm just like looking around my room. I've got a Nintendo Switch. I've got teddy bears. I've got whatever else, but I haven't got a loom band, and that's what I really want. And so that's a current issue that we're being faced with. Another thing that I thought I should talk about is a dream that I had recently. It was, I think, the day before yesterday, possibly. It was like a weird dream. I'll try and remember it accurately, but it really makes no sense. So, in my dream, I was like quite a few years younger than I currently am. I was like, I think 16-ish. And I don't even know the context because I've never been to America. But I had a dream that I was in New York City. But like not like in the New York City that you're thinking of. Like I was in the New York City sort of place. So I don't know how to explain it. You know, like in the 2014 version of Annie, where they're like living in an orphanage in New York, but like the poor quote unquote area of New York, not the like Times Square part. And so I was like in like the sort of dingy areas. I don't know how you describe that. And I was just in New York, and I'm like walking down like a suspicious alleyway, and next to the alleyway there's like this massive rich person hotel, and a very famous celebrity that I don't like walked out of that hotel. Like, and he's not really very famous. No one really likes him anymore, but he used to be like, I think, quite well known. He used to be very rich, at least. But now, like, he's a bit sus. But, you know. Anyway. And he was walking out. I don't know how old he would have been. I don't know how old he is. Because it was, like, my current self, but me as 16. So, like, a few years younger, but, like, effectively current time, like, 2020. Oh, what year would it have been? I mean, I was 16 in 2019, so I guess, like, let's just pretend it was 2019. And so I'm walking down this dodgy alleyway, and this rich guy comes out, and he looks at me and gives me a weird look, and then like faces the road ahead. And I, for some reason, pull out of my pocket like barbed wire, like the sort of wire you'd get on the top of a really tall fence to stop people from like climbing over. And I grabbed, for some reason, barbed wire out of my pocket and didn't like cut myself or anything. And I like grabbed it in both hands, and I ran up to this like really successful man and put my hands over his like the front of his face and strangled him from the front of his like. So I jumped up like onto his back like a piggyback, put my hands over his face and like strangled him and like cut his neck with this barbed wire. So I ended up killing him. Bear in mind, this is like a 60, 70-year-old man. Killed him. He's like dead on the floor. And I'm like, oh my god, I'm 16, I've just killed this guy. So I don't know what happens next, I can't remember. I think it just cuts to me being arrested in my dream. So I get arrested. They're like, you killed this guy. I'm like, no, I didn't. And for some reason, I think I don't know how the law works, so don't quote me on it. But they send me back to England, because I'm British, and they take me to, like, the court in London. Like, is it British, what's it called? The Crown Court, I guess. And they take me there, and they sort of basically, like, they're like, you did this. And it's like, sort of like, you know, like the Johnny Depp Amber Heard thing in America last year. It's sort of like that, like it's on TV, like everyone's watching it, and I'm like, I didn't do anything, but I'm very aware that I did. Eventually, I plead guilty, and they're like, okay, good, and they asked me all these questions, like, why did you do it, what did he do to you, and I was like, oh, he just looks a bit weird, he's a bit sus, you know, and somehow, also, this takes a turn, also, I feel like I probably should censor what I'm saying. I didn't think about censoring what I was saying, but I'll censor some bits. So, I don't know, so I get charged with hurting that guy, and his family are like, oh my god, you unalived my dad, you unalived my granddad, and I'm just there like, okay, and then they're like, and so in America there's like the penalty of DEATH, and for some reason I'm given that, even though I'm 16, and they're like, a few weeks after your 18th birthday, we're gonna do that to you in New York, because that's where the crime took place. I don't know if that makes sense or anything. And I'm like, okay, that's really sad. And eventually, fast forward, they take me back to America, and I'm in this like maximum security prison. And eventually, when I'm 18, they take me to be like, I don't know how they would do it. I assumed it would be like a rope around my neck sort of thing, but I feel like that's quite like Red Dead Redemption sort of thing. I don't think they would do that now, but that's kind of like how I assumed it would be. So they were about to do that to me, but for some reason the judge walks out of nowhere and he's like, actually, we're not going to do this to this girl. She can go free, but you can't come back to England and you can't stay in New York. You've got to leave. You've got to go somewhere else in America. So I just go. But as far as the world is aware, I'm supposed to be dead. So, like, everyone's like, oh, yay, she's died, woo. But, like, little do they know I somehow snuck out of it. So I go on a run. Like, I, like, leave, I pack, I don't even have stuff, I just run. Somehow make it to California. Somehow. I mean, like, New York and California are opposite sides of the country. But, yeah, ignore that. So I get to California, somehow get a job. I don't know how I managed to get a job. Change my name from my actual name to, like, I can't remember what I called myself. I think I called myself Barbara. So I'm like, hey, I'm Barbara. And I get a job and, like, I move on. But then eventually paparazzi, don't know how the paparazzi found me, but they're like, oh, that's that girl that killed that famous Hollywood guy. And I'm like, okay. And then everyone finds out that I didn't die, and then it's like a major, like, thing with, like, the police in England being like, we were just doing what we were told to do. And, like, it's like a major situation, but I just get away with it because I've changed my name and I lie and say I don't know what you're talking about, and I get arrested again. And they're like, are you this girl that was supposed to be killed all these years ago? And I'm like, no, never heard of her. I've lived in England I've lived in America my whole entire life. Don't know this girl. Eventually, so, like, awkward and, like, cringe. Eventually, I fall in love with this really famous rock star that I won't say the name of, who I literally don't know anything about him, but he was in my dream, and we become, like, best friends, and we fall in love and have kids together. And he's like, she isn't that girl. She would have told me if she was that girl that killed that guy. But I was that girl. But, like, somehow my own husband didn't realise that I killed that guy. And it was just the whole thing. And that was kind of the dream. That I killed somebody, avoided getting punishment, got out of prison, got married, had kids, and just moved on with my life. Even though I'm literally a criminal. So that was a really interesting dream. I don't know, I think it was inspired by, because I watched this documentary about Sid and Nancy, who I wasn't really sure who they were, and I think it's inspired by that. I don't know why. Like, indirectly inspired by that. But, yeah, that was a thing that was in my dream. And, yeah. But speaking of, like, Johnny Depp, in court, he's, on tour again from, like, early this month to, I think, July, late July. I thought, that's interesting. I've been listening to a lot of their songs. It's quite good. And yeah, I don't know why I brought that up. in my head I was like, that's really important, but like considering what I just talked about, not really relevant. But yeah, he like hurt his leg, he like fractured his leg, and then everyone on Instagram was like, oh no, it was all because of the Cannes Film Festival. He like broke his leg because of the Cannes Film Festival, which I wouldn't say would have been the case, because he clearly said that he hurt himself before the Cannes Film Festival. It just got worse after the Cannes Film Festival. So I don't know about that, but I think he might be okay. And then the only other thing I have on my list is Dracula. But I've got to somehow fill 10 more minutes. So I've got to speak much more slowly about Dracula. So Dracula is a book that I have. And it's really good. I listened to like the audio version on YouTube and look at it on my phone, because I found this website that gives you books for free, which seems suspicious. I can't remember what the website is, but just type in books for free, like free download books on YouTube, on Google instead, not YouTube. Type in free book download on Google and you'll be able to find like free books. And I don't know, like Google says it's a bit sus, but like, I mean, it doesn't give you don't log in and you don't give them like your IP address or anything, so I feel like it's not that sus. Don't know. Anyway, I only did it once, and yeah, that's the book I looked at. It's quite a long book. It's like 400 and some pages, which is quite a lot for me. Although I once read like 3 Harry Potter books in a month, and I feel like the first 3 Harry Potter books are like 300 pages each, maybe, like the early ones. So I feel like I could do it. I'm unmotivated to do it. So I think every few weeks I'll read a few chapters and sort it out. I mean, this I can't remember. I think I've read maybe like 3 or 4 chapters. I say read, I mean that it's getting read to me on the YouTube audio book thing. So yeah, I thought it was alright. Don't know what else to say about that really. There's nothing to really say. But yeah, it is quite a good book. It's about a guy. I thought it was going to be a story. I mean, it is a story, but I thought it was going to be like once upon a time there was this guy called Dracula, sort of thing. And it isn't. It's like a diary thing. So it's like, I can't remember how it starts, but it's like this guy on a trip. He like leaves, I don't know the context, I'm not paying too much attention. But it's like he leaves his home and he goes on a trip to Romania, because is it Romania? I think it is. Where he meets these people. Also, spoiler alert. He meets these people on his trip, and they like are really suspicious. They won't tell him anything. And eventually he goes like on a train or something, and he's like constantly writing in his diary about like all these people are suspicious, And then I've only gotten to like chapter 4, chapter 3, something like that. So I'm not very far ahead, obviously. But eventually he goes to Count Dracula's house because his friend basically tells him to. And he's like, oh, this guy's so cool. Suspicious that he doesn't eat like when I eat. And at first he's like, oh, that's fine. But then he's like, that's a bit weird. And obviously he's a vampire. Vampires drink blood, but he can't let him know that. But he's like, suspicious that you don't eat or drink. I think he maybe drinks alcohol, but that's it. And he's like, suspicious. And he writes all that in his diary. And then at some point he realises that he's a bit funky and that he's a prisoner in Count Dracula's like mansion, and that he's surrounded by vampires. And he looks out the window and he looks out and he sees that that he's a vampire basically, but he didn't realise that. So like because obviously vampires I guess didn't exist. So he's like, that's weird. He looks weird. Like he's behaving like an animal, like a bat, but like he doesn't think about that. And he's like, this guy, he looks weird. The way he touches people, that's weird. And then there's a bit in it that I read a few days ago where he's like sat in the room and there's like these two girls in the room, these girl vampires, and one of them tries to bite him, but then they don't. So I think Count Dracula walks in and notices, and he's like, what are you doing? And they're like, and then they go. And that's how far I've gotten, which is literally like not very far. And yeah, so it's quite interesting, but I've got to have the effort to actually like care, which I don't have. It's a bit cool. So that's kind of that, you know, like it's one of those stories that are like not really a story, like even like it is a story, but it's kind of quite intense when you read it, so you kind of can't read it, in my opinion, like constantly, like every day, because it's just like a lot, like each chapter's quite long in my opinion, and you're just kind of, it's just a lot to sort of wrap your head around, because it goes on for so long, and it's just everything, it's just constant sort of big words that don't really make sense, and it's just kind of intense, you know. Another thing that I guess I could talk about relating sort of to blood is the spiders everywhere, constantly. Spiders in like every area of the house. Can't deal with it. Spiders all over my bedroom, and I'm pretty sure spiders drink blood. Pretty sure. Maybe I'm wrong. Pretty sure they do, because like they get like a fly or a moth or something, and they get their web and like grab it and like spin it around in their web to like trap it and like kill it, and then they like stick their like mouth pinchers in and suck the blood, I'm pretty sure, because like they don't actually eat it, they don't have like a mouth. Or maybe they do have a mouth. I guess they technically must have a mouth, because they've got like pinchers, but I've never seen a spider's mouth, so I wouldn't actually know. They must do. But then do they? Because they have like, it's like a little blob with like a bajillion eyeballs, and then pinchers. They must have a mouth. I don't know, because they've surely got a bottom, but then that's like a weird thing, because like you never see spider wee and poo, but they must do. But like, how do they do it? It's one of those things that you kind of want to know, but then like if you was to Google it, you'd probably like vomit. But like, spiders must wee and poo. They must do. Like everyone, like that's just a natural thing. But I don't know, maybe not. So as I say, this video will be going up probably next week. I mean, I could do it for tomorrow. I might do. Depends. I've actually got videos ready for September. Early September. So that's how far ahead I am. So perhaps I will fit this in tomorrow. But if it's not tomorrow, as in the day you're watching this, I mean, you won't know, because you won't know. If it's not the 28th of June, then it will be whatever the next Wednesday is from that. So yeah, don't worry about it. So that's what it is. I've been trying to make, on my other YouTube channel that's separate from this one, I've been trying to do shorts. And like, my first 2 shorts got like 1,000 views, which is good. But then my most recent ones have only got like 50 views, and I don't get how it works. Because it's effectively the same video, like multiple times, and it's not working. And I thought I like had, like, oh, I'm gonna go viral. I've got this really cool concept, and now it's like not that cool of a concept, because nobody is interested in it. But I suppose that's okay. You know, that's just how it is. It's like kind of one of those like sad things, because in your head you're like, this is gonna go so well, and then you upload it and it's like not that well. And I feel like any views past a certain, like a few, I feel like it's still kind of good. Like, I suppose it depends what you're used to. If you're used to making videos with thousands of views, obviously that's different. But like, I'm alright with like 10 views. Like, I'm fine. Like, I don't care, you know? I mean, I care, but I'm not gonna like cry about it. Like, it's fine. I'm not a 10-year-old. Like, it's fine. I know someone who's, I don't know how old they are, I can't remember, but they're quite a few years younger than me. And he gets so upset if someone doesn't watch the video, and it's like, you've got like 8 subscribers. You've got some fractionally less than me, and you're crying about it. Like, maybe if you're gonna cry about it, don't make the videos in the first place. But yeah, anyway, the video is literally over. That was, I feel like, quite a good 30-minute chat that we just had. I don't think I had too many sort of awkward silences, because, you know, it's natural to have an awkward silence, but you don't really want to make it an awkward silence. And yeah, so this is the video, and yeah, hopefully you'll see it in the next few days, or maybe you won't. That's just sort of how it is. If you do find these videos good, because a lot of people typically watch these videos more than the gaming videos. I mean, they're all gaming, but yeah. So if you like them, make sure to subscribe or like or even comment. So that's really helpful for me. And just let me know if you do like it, if you don't. Yeah, so thank you for watching, and I'll see you for the next video next week.